Today's guest is Sam Arthur, co-founder of Nobrow Press and Flying Eye Books. Sam's going to tell us a story about Nobrow's humble beginnings and gives tons of book and magazine advice. If you want to get into book publishing, you don't want to miss this. Now, let's get to know more about Sam. Sam, before we continue, I'm going to ask you what I ask all my guests. Pencil or pixel?
If I had to choose, I would choose pencil. But then if I didn't have pixel, I feel like my life would be over. So, I think if I didn't have a pencil, then it wouldn't even begin. So that's where it all begins, with a pencil, and it all ends with a pixel.
Awesome. For those that don't know, who you are, what you do, can you give us a little overview of what you do?
Okay, well, my name's Sam Arthur. I'm the CEO, the managing director of Nobrow Press and Flying Eye Books. We publish visual books, graphic novels, comics, picture books with children as well. Anything with a kind of, I guess, a graphic narrative. That's the kind of stuff we're interested in. And a lot of our books are, they have a real attention to detail on the production standards and stuff. So the materials we use, the design, we really want to create a beautiful object. So it's really, it's almost like something that you want to hand down to the next generation. You want that book to be on your bookshelf for years to come. That's the kind of books that we make.
What made you decide to start publishing?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination of things, actually, because you have, in the UK, there was always a bit of a gap in the market. I think Alex and I really noticed that there were really amazing things happening in the US and in Canada and in France and even in Germany and Italy. Really amazing visual publishing. I don't know, Fantagraphics and Drawn and Quarterly in the US and Canada, but there's heaps of publishers in continental Europe that were doing this stuff that you'd never see in the UK. So I think part of it was thinking, well, how come we don't have that? And thinking maybe we should. But then on a more personal level, I was working as a music video director and as a commercials director for 10 years after I left art school. And so I was always dealing with visual narratives, because that's what film is as well, essentially. And it just felt like at the time, Alex and I had been working together on a few projects, and it actually felt like it was a good time to try something else, to have a slight career change. And a lot of people think it was a bit odd that I would, do that. But for me, it's always been about creating, starting a project and bringing people in and working in a team to actually, make something tangible at the end. And in a sense, telling a story really is all it's about at its heart. And that's what we do now. So for me, it's not that much different. It's just the medium itself is slightly different. So from film to book to publishing.
Yes, it's almost like you're directing these books.
It's kind of. I mean, I think as well, there's a little bit more in a sense that I guess we give people, we seek people out, and then we give them an opportunity to tell a story, and we give them the tools that they need to bring it to fruition, and that's something that's really rewarding for both me and Alex. It's kind of making little. Sounds really corny, making little dreams come true every day, but it kind of is. It's really that's the most rewarding part of what we do.
Did you begin by bootstrapping everything, or how did it all sort of go about?
Yeah, in the beginning, we wanted to start with smaller projects that were, I guess, manageable, and manageable on without investing huge amounts of money at that point that we didn't have. or that we didn't want to just kind of, just rush in with, and risk everything. So we started with screen printed projects. We had a little screen print studio, and we commissioned about, I think in the first place, around 10 different books, and they were all limited editions of like maybe only 50 copies or 100 copies at the most. And they were completely generated by the artist or the illustrator, and they had complete, control pretty much. They could do whatever they wanted. And we just told them how many colors they could use and how many pages they had.
So
So
were
it
these
took them.
artists that you were really into at the time?
Yeah,
Okay.
it would be in the early days. It was, I mean, it was like Ben Newman did the first thing with us, and we still work with Ben Newman. We did an amazing book with an illustrator designer called Tom Rowe. Um, we did something with, oh my gosh, it's Richard Hogg, illustrator, and Paddy Malloy, and who else? Well, there was quite a lot of different artists and illustrators, and for us that gave us an in. It meant that in a quite a short period of time as well, we generated quite a lot of work that we could put online, and it was things that we could actually begin to promote, and things that showed, I suppose, eventually our aesthetic, and it was also not, there wasn't the time in London or in the UK. It was, screen printing was not, I don't know, it wasn't so much of a thing that people were doing. It wasn't so hip, I suppose, but it was just, it was just that there was a bit more of there's a bit more of a revival now of that kind of getting your hands messy kind of printmaking, and I think that we just, I suppose we were on the crest of that wave, as it were. But that's the risk, that we took at that point in the business. But it was never intended that this was our main business, because if you imagine, yeah, publishing 50 copies of one book, you're going to have to sell it for a lot of money to make anything back or to make a living or anything. So in the early days, this was really for us. It was just getting started. It was getting ourselves on the map, and that's it worked. I mean, we had something to put on a website, for example. We had something that for people to become interested in. We had something that artists and illustrators could look at and say, "Oh, that's a tangible thing that these guys are trying to do, and they want me to do that. That's amazing. Yeah, I'd love to be involved." Whereas if you just go up to someone and say, "Hey, you don't know me, but I'd like to publish your book," I mean, it's kind of it's quite hard in the beginning when they don't know anything about you. Like, why should we? And yeah, we don't have loads of money, and and we've never really done this before, and blah blah. But it was a starting point, and that led us into doing the magazine, and the magazine, Nobrow magazine, if you want to check it out, is a collection. It's an anthology of illustration and comics. And in the beginning, it was just illustration. And what we did was we said we sought out those illustrators that we were really excited about working with, and we said, hey, this is the theme. The first one was Gods and Monsters was the theme, and we decided we're just going to use a black Pantone color and a blue Pantone color on white paper, and that's it. And you got to do whatever you want. Give us the artwork. We'll get it published, get it printed rather, and we'll send you a copy, and we'll get it out there. And that's what we did. And so once the magazine was out there, that was, in a way, it was like a kind of little mini billboard in all of the shops that it was in, for us, and to kind of, in a way, advertise the next edition or the next book or whatever. And again, it was something for us to promote, and it was something that we could use to really lead us into other projects. So I mentioned Ben Newman. Yeah, we did a screen printed book with him to begin with. Then he was in the magazine, and then we asked him to do an actual comic book. Um, and then we published that as well. So these little things happen where you work with someone and it's a springboard for other projects, and that's what was really exciting about the magazine, and what still is exciting about the magazine.
I love this, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Space Race
Space
here.
Race by Tom Cole. Yeah,
So yeah, we'll definitely find that information, these artists that Sam just mentioned, books, and all links from this interview on pencilversuspixel.com/nobrow. So pencilvspixel.com/nobrow. Sam, were you working? Were you doing any other thing when you started Nobrow? When you started publishing these books, you began by opening up a silk screening shop, and you were running a small batch of copies of these
yeah.
editions.
I mean, it's the kind of thing where, yeah, we couldn't afford to just give up everything that we were doing at that point. But Alex and I both, we'd put a little bit of money aside. We'd saved a bit so that we knew that we weren't going to be completely, you know, um,
Completely broke, yeah.
yeah. And but yeah, I was still holding down some teaching work that I was doing in an art school. So I was doing, well, it wasn't like every week, but it was every term, and I was still doing little bits of freelance work, and Alex was still doing bits of freelance illustration
This
work.
is video, freelance video work.
I kind of, yeah, I was doing a little bit. I was kind of beginning to knock it on. I think the last job that I did sort of overlapped with beginning with Nobrow, but the stuff that I used to do was, I mean, it was really well paid, and but it was the kind of thing that I don't massively uh, miss doing some of it. Some of it was fun, but yeah.
It's probably a
And
ton of work just to,
yeah, just for big corporations and
yeah,
advertising clients and stuff,
a lot of red tape.
a lot of conference calls and a lot of in the middle of the night. And
Oh man.
yeah, I mean, the thing is that if you're doing a lot of traveling, it gets to the point where um, I like the traveling that I do for Nobrow, because I'm essentially going to new places. I'm meeting people. I'm talking about our books. In a way, the most stressful thing that I have to do is find where the venue is, and set up a stand or a stall. It's not like turning up on location with like a massive crew of people all looking at you,
Yeah.
waiting to hear what you want them to do, and having a client sort of like getting nervous, kind of wondering what you're going to do, and that's a bit more stressful. So there's certainly elements of publishing that are stressful too, but yeah, I mean, what Alex and I did before really fed into to Nobrow and to our we both developed areas of expertise that have helped us set up the business. And we both, yeah, had to overlap a little bit in the first year at least, in order to continue to do things with Nobrow for sure.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us what the process is of, starting a project? And do you have multiple projects when it comes to Nobrow?
We have, like, I'd say we have at the moment about 30 publications per year. So that's 30 books per year, which is, considering where we started in our first year, was maybe four actual books, and the rest were the screen printed things. Yeah, we've come quite a long way. And just so you guys know, it's kind of split between Nobrow, which is the books that are aimed at adults, and Flying Eye, which are the books that are aimed at kids. But actually, some of the Flying Eye books are still pretty cool for adults, and a
Oh
couple of
yeah.
the Nobrow books are pretty good for kids. So it's sort of, that's kind of, we pitch it, I guess. Alex and I are still kids at heart, I guess. So there's a big part of that in there. We both grew up loving picture books, and I think that the idea that just because you're an adult you can't have a picture book anymore is kind of slightly depressing to me, really. So I think that was one of the founding ideas behind Nobrow.
So what's the process, Sam? Like, how does this start? Does someone pitch a book to you? Do you have ideas and you go out to artists and trying to work something out together? How does a project start? I mean, if you give us an example of one of the latest, maybe the latest projects you have.
Okay, well, I mean, it could be one of two things. It could be that someone has pitched us a project and we just love it and we say, yeah, we're going to do that. And that's normally in response to the guidelines that are on our website. So essentially, we're looking for quite specific things. We're looking for children's picture books of a certain length. We're looking for comic books, which are in our 17 by 23 series, which are essentially one shots. So they're like 24 pages long, and it's just a short story. So we're looking for that. And we're looking for longer graphic novels too. So if someone comes to us with one of those things and pitches one of those things that we really like, then yeah, absolutely, that might be the beginning. Alternatively, we also have ideas for specific books that we just have an idea. For example, we did a Leporello, which is like a concertina book, which was with Ugo Gattoni, and it was called Bicycle. And the idea for that was the Olympics were coming up in London, and and I had the idea that there was going to be this Olympic road race through the streets of London, and I just had this idea one day, wouldn't it? What would that race look like if anyone could take part? And I mean anyone. And that's basically it. And I
Yeah.
went, we'd seen Ugo's work and we thought he would be perfect for this. And he does these immense,
Who was it again?
detailed.
I'm sorry.
Ugo Gattoni, I'll send you the link. And he does these immense, intricate, detailed, black, thin line pen drawings. Um, and they're huge. He does these huge drawings just with a tiny little, you know, like a rotring pen. And and we thought he'll be perfect. So we approached him and we said, Ugo, this is the concept. And he was like, wow, that sounds amazing. And we basically just left him alone for 3 months. And he came back with a 10-meter drawing, literally on a big roll of paper. And we had to scan it, in sections and shrink it down a little bit. And then that was the result was this amazing book, which was just like anarchy in London on bicycles, like so much detail, but you got all of the landmarks of London in there too. And it came out, we released it the day before the Olympic Games started in London, and we weren't to know beforehand, but in the UK anyway, everyone went kind of cycling crazy because the British team kind of won all of the gold medals for cycling, and Bradley Wiggins had just won the Tour de France as well. So I didn't know that when we commissioned it, but it was one of those things where it just all came together. So that's a kind of example of where Alex or I will have an idea and we'll approach someone and yeah, we'll work with them. But generally, Alex and I, once we see something we like, we're very keen to let that person do their thing, to let them lead. And really, we like to think of ourselves as a sort of a kind of sounding board, that if they have ideas that they want to run past us, then we're here. Occasionally, we'll have a very specific idea, but it's never like, hey, can you just like move that eyeball, 3 millimeters to the right, kind of thing, which is the kind of thing that illustrators get really, kind of upset about when they're working with a lot of art directors. They feel like they get overly sort of tinkered with, and we
Pushed
try and
around. Yeah.
yeah, we try and let people do their thing. And that's something that comes from experience of being in that position ourselves, I guess.
Yeah, man. Awesome.
And I think, to justify it from an art director's point of view, they've normally got a client that they have to go back to. So
Yeah.
they usually have a very specific directive, and if an illustrator kind of goes off on one tangent or other, then they really have to like bring it back. But in the end, the client is it's us, it's Alex and I. Nobrow is the client, so the buck stops with us basically. So I suppose it's it's one less um, um, sort of.
So no middle person. It's directly to you. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think the nice the luxury of it, I suppose.
Hey, Sam, have you had any hiccups with the business side of things or even production?
You know, in yeah, I was mentioning in 6 years, it's a long time, and we've probably sent at least 80 things off to print, if not more, probably more now. So there's no, it must be more than that actually, and the frustrating thing is there are things where you maybe think in hindsight that would have been better if it was a couple of millimeters to the left or if it was centered and little things like that, or where you might have just maybe not measured something exactly how you it didn't come out exactly how you thought it would, or a color or something might not print how you thought it would. These things happen, and that's part of it's just part of it. So you kind of have to expect a certain amount of that. What's incredibly stressful and debilitating is when a printer makes a mistake whereby it really has it's just not on us. It's just like they've just gone and just done something completely unexpected for no reason, who knows, and it's just ruined our book completely. And when that happens, it doesn't happen very often, but it has happened, and that's when you have to have these conversations with printers where it's like, right, you need to print this again.
Now you're talking
And
multiple copies, the final
yeah,
copies.
yeah, we're talking thousands, we're talking pallets, we're talking, and it's a really tough situation.
And
And
this
the
is after
printer,
proofing, after doing the initial work. For
yeah,
some
I mean,
reason, it just happens.
but you can imagine if an artist spends maybe a year or 2 years on a book and then the printer just makes a stupid mistake and it just completely destroys that person's vision. It's like that's the worst scenario ever. And from a business point of view, it's a really bad situation because if you're late on a publication date, yeah, you're down on your revenue. You're not you're not going to get any money coming in for a longer time. People get annoyed because they want the book and you've promised it to them. So that can be a really bad situation, and I don't like those situations when we've had to deal with them. It's been tough, but we've had them, and we've had to tell people, yeah, we need you to reprint that book, and we need you to do it, yesterday, and and that's hard. That's-
Was there a noticeable decline in readership?
no, and I think that we would never want anything to go on sale that we weren't happy with.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important thing. And most people can tell from the production value of the books when they see them that we put a lot of care and attention into that. So, um, but I think that when you're a small publisher as well, I think there's a certain amount of leeway that you can have, on being a little bit late or something, or if the quality in the end is top notch, and
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
we expect. But I think we've we've found people that we like to work with, and printers that we like to work with, and when a printer does a really good job, we tend to give them more work. So that's that's an important part of what we do, and the production process is really key. Um, but yeah, when things go wrong, and it can, I'm just saying, we can do things wrong, but and you have to own up to that. But um, when the printer does it and it just feels like it's out of your control, it's just really frustrating. That can be bad, but it doesn't happen very often. It's only happened a couple of times. One time we had two books actually on a truck coming back from the printer in continental Europe, and the truck that the books were in actually got stolen at the port.
What?
Yeah, that was really bad. And so I'm sure that when the thieves discovered, pallet loads of books in the back, not, like phone cards or, like iPads or something
Yeah.
useful. They had books. They promptly dumped the van, like somewhere, and the police actually found it a couple of weeks later. But
So what happened? So
that
they brought him back?
yeah, we got the books back in the end. It was yeah, that was a shaggy dog story, but that was I don't want that to happen again.
Oh no.
But apparently it was like the Albanian mafia or something. That I don't know.
What do you look for in an artist?
I mean, on one level, just before I answer that question, Alex and I have a kind of general rule is that we both have to agree on someone before we publish.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it gives us a little bit of leeway for kind of thinking, I kind of like this. What do you think? And then and then Alex is like, nah, I don't really like that, or it's not really us, or I'm not sure. And then you're like, maybe not, or hey, yeah, wow, that's incredible, wow, kind of thing. And then that you've really got somebody when you're both like really excited about somebody. And I think when we're both really excited about somebody, it's because this person is just very good at telling stories and they have a unique voice. And that sounds like quite, sort of a vague thing to say. But when we see it, we know. And it's, I don't think it's something that you can necessarily even learn. I just think it's like your personality. It's like maybe you're born with it, maybe, I don't know. And it's not always the person is the best at drawing in the world, and it's not always that they have the best color kind of treatments, or that they um, or or that they're like an amazing storyteller. I think sometimes it's a combination of lots of things, and it's just they have a very particular, unique way of doing that thing. And in the end, it's about getting a message across, a story across, and engaging a reader, a public. And if you can do that, then that's a gift, and that's what we're looking for.
We're about to wrap it up, but I want to ask you what exciting things are you working on right now? Anything you could talk about? Anything that maybe even outside of Nobrow and
Yeah,
your books?
we've got some great stuff. We've got by first. This is his first book, and in fact maybe I should go and get it, and I could show it.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great.
It's Schooled by a young cartoonist, graphic novelist called Jamie Coe, and he's based in the UK. But I'm very excited about that book, and it's just about to hit the shelves.
When's it coming out?
No, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll email you. I'll email you a link to the thing, and then that's better. Yeah.
Okay.
So Jamie Coe, Art Schooled, really excited about that. It's a kind of, it's a story of based on his own story of going to art school. I think, and he went to art school in central London, quite a famous art college. So it's quite funny, and it's full of little observations that if you did go to art school, you would absolutely relate to. If you didn't, you'll probably just laugh at it because you just think how ridiculous art school is. And I went to art school, so I was laughing all the way through. It's great. So that's a really good one. We've got some really talented new children's picture book artists coming up to Ella Bailey. You're going to hear a lot about her. Her book, No Such Thing, is coming out in time for Halloween. And Hug Me is just about to hit the shelves, which is by Simona Chiarolo. And that's we had the launch for that last night, so that's fantastic. What else? Some stuff next year coming up. We've got exciting things happening for LCAF, which is the East London Comic Arts Festival.
And
So
you have a
that's
lot to do with that, don't you?
yeah, we pretty much organise it. So that's taking shape. That's looking pretty like it's going to be interesting. So watch out for that. You can follow that LCAF Fest on Twitter to find out about that. Um, I can send you all these links and stuff too. And in general, you know, the best way to find out about what we're doing is to follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're on all those things, and we're always kind of quite active about letting people know what's going on and what we've got coming up, and that's a really good way of checking things out.
And
So
are you Nobrow all across?
Nobrow Press,
Nobrow Press.
Instagram, Nobrow Press on Twitter, and I think it's Nobrow. Might just be Nobrow on. You'll have to. I can't remember what we are on Facebook. Maybe it's Nobrow Press on Facebook too. Anyway, I'll
Well,
send you.
I'll definitely have them on the show notes for sure. I'll have
Yeah,
the correct links
yeah.
on the show notes.
That sounds. I don't really do the Facebook. I do Twitter and I do the Instagram. I kind of leave the
Yeah,
Facebook to.
yeah. It kind of took over Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Sam, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.